Welcome back to Liftalk. This is episode 34. Joined by James Lee today. James, welcome to the show.
Hey,
How you doing, man?
I'm well, man. How are you?
Good, man. So first thing I wanted to talk to you about was a bit of SPD Cup stuff as well as some media content stuff, which you've been doing a lot of lately. But before we get to that, I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everyone, which is, what's your first memory of physical culture?
Physical culture. You remember a dude called Mike Chang
Yes, I
on
do.
YouTube?
Six-pack shortcuts, I do.
Six-pack shortcuts with the tower workouts.
Yep, I remember that guy.
That's what got me into it. It was like 2 million views on the video. I'm like, wow, this guy's so jacked. I want to be like this guy.
Didn't he get found out recently and he's been exposed?
Is it?
I'm pretty sure he's completely disappeared off the internet.
Yeah, I've heard about that. That was a while ago.
I'm pretty sure he got exposed for I'm not sure what, but yeah, he was a bit of a fraudster.
Yeah.
But he sold a lot of training programs.
Tower workouts.
What was it about him that attracted you? He was just jacked.
He was just jacked.
Jacked Asian guy.
He was just, like a jacked Asian guy. I'm like, I can be this guy. So Mike Chang. And then once I discovered he was a bit of a loony, I was like, you know what? I'll just move on. And then Omar Esoff, Mike Israel, and if you know the bloke, K Bowie from Melbourne.
Do, of course.
Yeah. His videos just got me hooked. I was like, wow, this is like an addiction. An Asian bloke that was strong.
Were you deadlifting with chains like he is?
Nah. I wish I was.
So he was in PA when I was in PA, early days. So he was in the junior 83s when I was in the junior 74s. So I would watch him heaps. My first time seeing him, he actually bombed at nationals.
Oh.
And he he missed all 3 deadlifts on soft lockout.
Oh, right, yeah.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. So who were some of your first influences in powerlifting then, other than Kev Bowie?
In powerlifting, probably big ones at the time. When I started going on Instagram.
Yeah, what year was that?
So I started going on Instagram in 2020, 2021. I wasn't a big Instagram guy.
Yeah.
I was always on YouTube. And then when I think I jumped on Instagram, you got your typical Russ Wall. When it comes to Sydney, a big one was probably Liz Craven.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Very cool.
She got me into it and I was like, damn, I'm going to give this powerlifting thing a go.
Yeah, cool.
And for a bit, I was coached under John Paul Couchy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's the same time that he was coaching me, roughly.
Is this 2020 or?
Yeah, he coached me from 2018 until 2021.
I started with him in 2018.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, January
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. That's so sick. I love JP.
He's a nice bloke.
Very cool. So you're doing the SPD Cup in 4.5 weeks. Mm-hmm. What are you looking forward to?
Man, I think it's a really good showcase competition. You pretty much got the best of the sport within that one competition, minus the people that are going to that comp in Perth. But it's really good and it's showcasing the best of what we've got in Australia.
So how do you think comps like this will kind of elevate Australian powerlifting then? I
mean, for one, it's bringing the eyes, right? You've got so much media attention. You've got so much hype towards the SPD Cup. We've got the pretty much best lifters nationally. You've got so much media coverage. It is what you'd want a powerlifting meet to be like. Something that's hyped up, something that people can actually look forward to instead of being so monotonous. No offense.
Can be.
Can be in a local comp, but every lifter has something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And from an audience perspective, that's great. Every minute you're watching that comp, there's something, you're paying attention to.
Yeah, and I was talking with John about this a couple of weeks ago, but it's so different to a nationals because nationals occurs over 3 or 4 days, and this is 20-ish lifters in one session, all condensed into that one session. Whereas at a nationals, it's one of those lifters or 2 of those lifters are in each session.
Yeah.
But in this instance, they're all lifting in the same session. So like you said before, there's constant action. There's always something going on that's bringing the eyeballs and getting the crowd to G up and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is sick. How do you feel about the scoring system? What do you like or dislike about the way that the scoring system works?
So remind me what the scoring system is again?
It's the same as Sheffield. So the total that you achieve is then divided by your weight class Australian record, and that's your score.
Oh,
so like
right.
100 points would be 100% of the record in
Right.
your class.
Man, it's tough because we are in a new federation. With the new federation, we've got new standards.
Yeah.
But also, it doesn't take into account people who've done higher totals
Yes.
in other federations previously, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, an Australian record is nice to have in terms of percentages, but really, like, if you're looking at the strongest of the strongest, like, wouldn't you base that off GL?
Well, that's kind of the thing that we kind of toyed with, was using GL. But what GL doesn't take into account is like your competitiveness within your weight class. And it doesn't even up the playing field. Because when you go into a meet that's run on GL, or like, you know, is a GL meet, you kind of know at the start of the comp who the 2 or 3 candidates to win are.
Yeah.
So this kind of like brings everyone down to the level of their weight class. And it also encourages lifters to like target particular records that may be a little bit weaker, quote unquote,
Yeah.
which I like. The other thing that you mentioned was like we're a new federation with new standards. So this year, because some of the records are like a little bit all over the place, there are going to be very clear advantages to being in particular weight classes.
Oh, yeah.
But in the future, that won't be the case.
Yeah, yeah. As the sport grows within Australia and records get pushed, yeah, you could expect that it's a lot more viewable. It's a lot more exciting to actually see records being broken because they're great lifts instead of just, you know, breaking whatever standard we've got at the moment. No offense.
I
No
guess
offense.
I guess one other way you could do it is actually just using the world record totals.
Yeah.
And the scores would just be much lower, but it would be relative to like the actual top standard.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we can maybe think about changing that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on SPD Cup. So moving on, I want to talk to you mostly today about sort of media and content in powerlifting. So let's zoom back to when you first started. Do you remember what sort of it was like, you know, lifter recaps, and what was like coverage of live streams like, and what was that kind of stuff like when you started?
Man, like when I first came into the scene, so that was early 2022. I'd look through people, you know, I was following and see their comp recaps, and most of the time it would just be slideshows
Yeah.
of ripped live stream footage. I mean,
Yeah.
you've been in the game longer than I have. What's it been like for you? Like 2017 2017 compared to now, like.
Yeah, I think the first thing is it was actually quite hard to know how someone went at a comp, because there wasn't actually always live streams at comps. There actually wasn't even always live streams at international comps.
Yeah.
Like I did 2 international comps. One of them didn't even have a live stream because like it was run in Uzbekistan and they just didn't care.
Oh, that's rough.
So they just like, they didn't even have a live stream.
Yeah.
So it was like, you couldn't even keep up to date with results and stuff like that because you had to kind of wait for people to post stuff on Instagram. And then a lot of people didn't even post stuff on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or they might post like, oh, hit a squat PB today. Here's my video of my squat. And then not say anything about their bench or their deadlift or their total. So it was very, very difficult to even know what was going on back then.
Was open powerlifting a thing?
Yeah, open powerlifting was a thing then, but results were not loaded immediately. Like they were actually often delayed like a month.
Yeah.
Like you would have instances where like you'd do a comp and you'd search open powerlifting every 2 or 3 weeks and it wouldn't come up for like 3 or 4 months.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't be on there. So it was very, very hard to keep up to date. And then when people would post comp recaps, like you said, it would be like a slideshow of like one video of a squat, one video of a bench, one video of a deadlift from someone's phone who's shaking in the crowd.
Yeah.
And like a shit angle with bad lighting and like you can barely see anything.
That's rough. Like imagine doing like 100 good lift and all you've got to show for it is like shaky phone footage from what your mum recorded. It's not like, it's nice, but you actually want to showcase it.
Yeah.
You want to present it
Yeah.
well, and that's what I got into it for.
Yeah, so you were actually one of the first people that I remember like out the back in warm-up rooms. And I remember at first being like, what's going on here? Like you're just getting in the way of coaches and lifters. Like not you specifically, but anyone who had a camera in the back room. What was it that actually like had you want to do that in the first place? Is it because the content was so bad leading into that?
I guess pretty much like when you see someone compete and they put up, you know, really good PBs or they hit really impressive totals, you want to showcase it. So I looked at what was currently in the market, you know, live stream footage, whatever phone footage you could scrape, and it wasn't much. So it's like, who at the moment in Sydney at least has that ability to provide that service of, you know, professional videography? Like, I looked around, I was like, pretty much no one. You'd have to hire one of your mates or an external videographer and you knew, and it cost so much money. I remember like one time when I did my first ever comp, a bloke was offering like raw videos for like $120. And I was like, that is so ridiculous. That is so, so ridiculous. Like, there should be something for powerlifting, specifically for powerlifters, that is affordable and can capture every moment from a powerlifter's perspective. Because if you're hiring someone externally that doesn't know anything about powerlifting, you're not guaranteed that you'll get every moment captured.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting sidetrack then to talk about. What is it that makes someone who's actually participated in powerlifting able to capture those moments? Like, is there a specific thing that you look for?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's those small moments, right? Like right before you go up for a lift, or like while you're in the warm-up room with your coach having those discussions that are like, you have your moment on the platform, but I think, I mean, not for all people, but I speak from experience, the moments I remember most are the moments in the warm-up room or the moments right before I'm going to go on a lift when my coach is speaking to me.
Yeah, or that celebration after, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, no one was capturing that. I was like, man, these moments should be cherished. They should be immortalized somehow.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and get those angles, even if, you know, might not be permitted by the big federation before.
Redacted.
But I was like, you know what? No one else is going to do it. I might as well.
And I've actually had that gripe with several people. Like, I've asked friends or like my mum to film my lifts for me before. And then, like, as soon as the lift's over, they stop the video and they're like, they don't even get the celebration with the coach afterwards. And then I'm watching it back and I'm like, I really wish I could see that.
Yeah.
It's like that's like a moment that like I wasn't clear with them. Like, hey, I want you to film the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the money shot. I call that the money shot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the best moment.
Yeah. So how did you actually get started then? Like, did you just buy a camera and just get into it, or were you already kind of doing photography stuff?
I took a leap of faith. Like, prior to actually even having a camera, I had no experience working with any like photos or videography. I had no like formal education. I was studying psych for God's sake, but there was a need for it. So I was like, you know what? Might as well try to offer this service. If anything, I lose $1,000 to camera gear. I can use that anyway outside of powerlifting. So I bought myself a camera. And the thing about starting off is like, well, you can't ask for money immediately. And I wanted to record my mates. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to record my mates for free, give them the videos. But while I'm here, I'm just going to record everyone else. So I don't know if you know, but like when I first started off, I would always just like, I would slide into the DMs. I would try to find the person I filmed, slide into the DMs, drop that Google Drive link and be like, bro, here are your videos, take them, use them for however you want. Yeah. And I did that at like novice comps. I did that every comp I went to. And it was just a good way of getting connections. That's how I know a lot of people I know in powerlifting. It's from what I did in the beginning, just giving stuff for free.
Yeah.
Like at the time, I wasn't in it to really make a profit. I was really just to record people at their moments. And I never thought about it as a business. I was just like a bloke who had a camera. I was there. I might as well use my time productively and just try to get everyone.
So at first you just started with sending people raw clips, like you weren't doing any
I was
editing?
a nobody. I came up to them straight after comp. I'm like, hey, I'm James. I recorded you. You know what? I'll send you your clips through Google Drive. I'll just DM you on Instagram. Yeah.
And you weren't doing any editing at that point?
No. I think the first couple edits I did was for Danny and Steve at ACT.
Yeah.
At ACT States Comp. That was the first time they actually asked me to do an edit. I'm like, you know what? I got no clue what to do, but I've got the vision.
Yeah.
And we're going to give it a go.
How long do those edits take, like, per person?
Man. It is right. You know, when I first started off, of course, there's a learning curve to it. But I think I remember this first couple edits took like at least 2-3 hours each. Obviously, as you get better, it gets a lot more quick, but depending on how many like cuts you want to do or how many like beat cuts you want to do, it will obviously take a lot longer. So nowadays, I take about 2 to 3 hours and edit, and that's what people don't usually like see. You know? They see what's produced. It's like a 90-second clip. It's like, oh, that's fuck all to do. But man, it is not.
Yeah.
Once there's levels to it. You can record and then chop up the clips. But if you want to make it look even better, you can color grade it. And then if you want to color grade it, it's a completely different way to film, where you've got this like really pretty flat image. We call it S-Log. But once you start adding color to it, it makes the image pop so much more. But that's what people don't realize. It's like this takes time to actually adjust all those colors.
So how do you then decide like how you go about filming something, whether you do that or whether you do like a different type of, you know, color grading or whatever? Like, how do you decide on that?
No. So the team I work with now, we all use S-Log.
Okay.
So it's pretty much ensuring that everyone gets really good quality in terms of color. Sometimes colors can mess up when you're, you know, in a different environment, or like the colors from the actual lights are just really off. I don't know if you remember, but at Nats, do you remember that back room area? How it was like really, really harsh light?
Yeah, really bright. Yeah.
Man, like if you don't have that in S-Logs, if you have that in just like, you know, your usual shooting format, like the colors on the people's skins, it's off. It is so off. You need to adjust it. And S-Log gives you that adaptability. And I'm just blabbing at this point. But
so you can kind of like cater the video to the individual. If you've got sort of that S-Log, you've got like flexibility to take it which way you want it.
Yeah, heaps more, way more.
So do you, before you film someone, have any idea about what kind of shots you're looking for that individual? Or do you like consult with them about the song they want and then kind of film to that style? Like, is there any particular to individuality to a video like filming session? Or does that all pop up in the editing?
Yeah. So usually what we do as Thirds, when you purchase something from us, there's a notes section we have that you can fill in. You can choose your song. You can choose what kind of angles you want, what kind of vibe you want to go for. If you really want to get into the details, you can DM the page. So I'm just shamelessly plugging us. But that's how we do it. You know, you can choose your song beforehand. But if you don't, we'll get the shots of you on the day as we see fit at the best angles possible.
Yeah. So then how do you then like cater the filming style to the song? Like if someone sends you like a rock song versus like a hip hop song, like how do you then, is there anything that you do differently on the day?
Man, like on the day, not so much. You still get the sort of standard clips, but it's a lot to do in the post stage, the editing stage. You know, if you've got a rock song, you've got so many more beats. You've got so many more beat matching clips to do that it takes a lot more time compared to like a song that's a bit slower. You can do slow-mos. You can keep it nice and chill. It really depends on the person and what they want. So usually there's that consultation period where it's like, hey, what are you going for? What kind of clips do you want? And that's how we cater individually.
So what are some of the most important parts of content creation that someone like me who has never really done any of it would be unaware of? Like what's some stuff that you guys do that like the listener would not know?
In terms of
just the entire process, like is there any particular like things that you guys do that just kind of you wouldn't know about?
Oh man, like when it comes to handling footage, that raw footage, that is a lot of time. You know, sometimes you're sitting there for like hours on end trying to sort footage. If you're filming an S-Log and we need to deliver like raw videos, we've got to color grade each individual clip. We've got to deliver it on time before schedule, making sure everything's sorted, and that takes a lot of time.
So how many minutes of footage would you have per person, like going into an edit?
Per person?
If you were to film me for a competition, how many minutes of raw footage would you have to then sort through to get that 90-second clip?
Man, we'd probably have like 10 to 20 minutes.
Yep.
That includes warm-up footage. That includes any footage of you talking to your coach. That takes a lot of time to choose which particular clips to include in that video. 90 seconds is such a short time frame that it's nice to include everything, obviously. Like that's what YouTube's for. But Instagram is completely different.
Yeah,
it's
you have to make every
beast.
single second matter on Instagram format.
Yeah, absolutely. If you lose attention within the first, 6-7 seconds, you're gone. Like, there's no viewership to that.
Yeah. So you've alluded to your company Thirds. You guys are doing the media for SPD Cup, which has been awesome so far. Tell me the story behind this. How did this get started? Was this started with you bringing people on, or did you have conversations with some of the other members and sort of bring it all together? Like, tell me the story of how it started.
Like for the most part, everyone in Thirds, before we even started, I noticed we had really great talent just from individuals across like Sydney. Like, but the main thing was like we weren't working together. It was sort of like, okay, I've got my personal clients, you've got your personal clients, just don't get in my way, record this, record that. But it wasn't like...
Is this before you were sort of brought together?
Yeah, before we were brought together. And I was like, you know, like as a business, the main thing we want to do is to be able to scale, right? Individuals can only do so much. We're pretty much limited to doing reels, right? Like go out to a comp, record a couple people, do a couple reels. That's pretty much all you can do as an individual.
How many people could one videographer handle in like one session?
In one session?
Yeah, like how many people would you be able to get actual good enough footage of in one session?
Man, in one session, are we talking like 14 lifters, like in a flight, or
like a session of 20?
A session of 20, man. Like if you've got like 6, 7, that's pushing it.
Yeah, okay.
You can't guarantee the quality if you've got any more. Like 5, 6, 7, that's a really nice number.
Yeah.
Depending on what you can handle. But if you take any more than that, you're gonna lose clips. You're gonna lose those valuable moments because by the time they're like celebrating, you've got to get the next lift.
Someone else is up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. So sorry, I interrupted you. Keep telling me about the how you guys formed the company.
Yeah. So obviously, really good talent, just working individually. But as a business, it's like, okay, if we want to do something bigger than ourselves in powerlifting, we've got to get together. Everyone's got such a unique perspective. You know, you've got Maybell in the photos. We've got such a talented team of videographers that if we work together, we can create content, not just for people, but for different organizations, right? Something bigger than ourselves. You look at SBD, you look at something like Top Set Media in the States. They're all doing things that are outside of that individual level. When it comes to just a single competitor at a comp, they're doing things above that.
So who's on the team, and do you guys have like particular roles that you guys do?
Yeah, so May is the designated photographer. She does a lot of the admin and the relations with the people we work with. We've got a huge team of videographers. We've got Alex in Queensland, which is really nice. Recently, we've got Avon in Melbourne. We've got Kyson, Ralph, myself, and Carlo in Sydney. So that lets us cover a lot of cities in Australia, and like that's scale, right?
So are you looking to expand to more states as well?
Oh yeah, if anyone's down for it. I mean, we're looking for pretty much probably Perth.
Someone in WA, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I had another question. Give me a second. What's the vision of the company then? What are you trying to build towards?
I look at something like SBD, you know, you've got pre-comp footage, you've got post-comp interviews. It looks like a very, very well-presented organization for media. You look at something like UFC where they've got like interviews, post-game interviews, pre-game interviews, you know, you've got interviews like of them training outside of comp. Like that's pretty much what we want to get into. It's getting to know the competitors on an individual level, but also providing that very professional media service to any comp you might be wanting to cover.
So are you someone who watches other sports?
Me? Mainly powerlifting.
Just powerlifting?
Mainly powerlifting.
I'm curious what the sort of external inspiration is then, because, you know, when I look at how the ideas that I have, they all come from other sports.
Yeah.
And like, you know, with what we're trying to do with the stream for this SPD Cup, like I'm drawing inspiration from rugby league and from basketball and like the way that they do their pre-game media and the way they do their commentary and stuff. Have you got any of those other inspirations outside of powerlifting?
Honestly, like I look towards other sports because, man, you look at something like golf or you look at something like UFC. UFC started, with Dana White. And from what I hear at the beginning, it was a bit rough until they actually started pumping money into it to get that media coverage, and then it just blew up.
I think Dana White actually bought it off someone else.
Yeah.
And that's when it started to blow up.
Yeah.
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 So then I guess then what's what are some things in powerlifting that we aren't doing now that we could probably do better? Or what are some things that we can do to make the sport more viewable and more professional?
I mean, a big part of it is like showcasing personalities, right? That's what sells sometimes. That's a big part. Like, for the most part, people that are strong, all they post are lifts, right? You might learn about them as people from podcasts, but you can't really, I guess it's not.
You have to like search for it. It's
Yeah.
not like easily available.
Search for sound bites. It's, if you're wanting to see something a bit deeper into the personal life, you go onto like YouTube vlogs or things like that.
Yeah.
And that's what we'd probably like to push into as well.
Yeah.
Getting into that really like, okay, what's your day to day like? If you're a very high level athlete, what are you like as a person as well?
Yeah.
Right? Showcasing that personal level of people.
Yeah. So you've been doing some work for Maddie B actually. What are the kind of differences in doing a YouTube video, like a long, like 20+ minute video, compared to the Instagram?
Man, Instagram, it's all about attention. It's like you've got to pump clips, you've got to make it catchy and engaging. Sometimes that's not, what the person's actually feeling, right? You could make a video as engaging as possible for short form video on Instagram, but if that doesn't actually reflect how the person feels, then it's sort of disingenuous. When you go into the YouTube, when I do YouTube videos for Matty B, it feels so much more natural. You actually watch the videos and it's like, I know how Matty B's like. Like, I know how he trains. I know his thought processes. I know how he thinks when it comes to training. And you can take bits from that and learn, right? Instagram, on the other hand, it's more of a showcase.
It's a highlight reel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So have you guys thought about going into like doing stuff for live streams as well?
Live streams?
Is that like on your radar?
Not at the moment.
No?
I don't know what the market's like for it, but it looks pretty covered with Chris and
Yeah.
I mean,
and this Chris.
yeah.
The two Chris's. So I guess then what's next then? What's next for the company? Like, how do you actually take these steps to move it forward and progress? Is it adding more stuff? Is it adding, what is it?
It's probably polishing what we've got now. So we've got a team of videographers making sure, at every comp, we've got quality footage that's affordable, making sure that, edits get done on time, that we provide a fast service, a quality service, making sure like we polish that and making sure that's what we're known for.
Cool. You alluded to this earlier. I wanted to kind of pick your brain on this stuff. Was that you're studying psychology? Have you finished?
Almost there. I've got like
still going
3 months.
Nice. So this is your last semester.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
It's been a long, long period.
What have you learned from psychology that has helped you with your own training and your powerlifting career?
It's got to do a lot of what I take from my own studies is probably the way you frame things, right? Like, reality is what you make it. That's the Thanos quote, basically.
Yeah.
But it's, like, I look at my own experiences, and Kana beat me at nationals. I had such a huge ego coming into it. I was like, yeah, I'm fucking strong. I'm hitting PRs across like all my lists. But when I lost to Kana, I was like, far out. Like, I wasn't that guy on the day. And I could have taken that as like, I'm dog shit. Like, I'm a dog shit lifter. Like, who am I to talk like what I talked like before? But it's the way you frame it. It's like, to me, losing to him was a loss, but that's the new start point, right? That's the new start point of the game where you just keep getting better. I have to look at what I've done before, what isn't really refined, what isn't optimized, and just keep improving. It's having that resilience to keep going forward and not succumbing to, like all these negative thoughts that could come to any event.
Do you consider coming second a loss? Like a silver medal was literally the second best person.
Yeah, that's
out
a
of
loss.
Everyone there. Is that still a loss?
That's absolutely a loss.
Or is it kind of just winning?
No, that's a loss.
Okay, interesting.
That's a loss.
Interesting.
I mean, Kana was strong. He was the stronger lifter on the day, right? No one can deny that. But it's like, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to like wallow and say like, oh, I'll never get as strong as him. I'm not as talented. Nah, I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep pushing because that's what makes me me. Like, I'm not going to be a victim to being a loser, basically.
Being a loser, a second place loser.
Fuck that.
You said when I asked you to come on the podcast, you're like, I don't want to come on if we're talking about lifting because I haven't totaled 800 yet.
Yeah.
So when are you going to total 800 then?
It's coming.
Good.
It's coming.
Okay. One last thing I wanted to talk about was Potsy's Gumption series. Just quickly. We don't have to spend long on this. Talk to me about the history between you and him and kind of like the little bit of like drama / beef that was, because it was kind of a bit fake.
That was so good. I think I lost a junior nats to E1.
Yeah.
At the time, I was so pissed. I was like, fuck! I was so angry, and I was like, you know, all good. And I remember flying back to Sydney, and Danny was right next to me, and I'm like, right before, like, you turn off your data before the plane departs. I'm like scrolling. I see Aiden Potts post something about like, watch how I win the Open National Championships and make my way to Malta. I was like, is this guy fucking serious? Fuck that. Like, I had such a huge feeling of loss. I was like, you know what? I can't be the only one that feels this. I'm going to make this cunt feel like it as well.
And that was like a 6 or 8 week turnaround? 6 weeks, I think it was.
Yeah, I think that was six or 5 weeks, something like that. 5 weeks of proper training and then the taper.
Yeah.
So that was exciting.
And what happened on the day?
What happened, Brad? I think I totaled 7:17 or something.
Yeah.
Potsy missed his last pull. And I just won because he missed his last pull. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, you had a 9 for 9 day, yeah?
I think it was 8 for 9. Missed my last deadlift. Really surprisingly, I lost like 15 keys off that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he still had a chance for the win at the end.
Yep. So he got it, I remember, just like right up to his knees. And he couldn't just lock it out. He dropped it and I was like, wow, I won, I guess.
That was that platform that had like 1 million holes in it by the end of it.
Yeah.
And Potsy was rolling the bar all around the platform trying to find a spot that it was
I was
actually
like, what
flat.
are you doing, lad? Just leave it.
That was actually ridiculous. Like, I mean, particularly if you pull sumo, the chances of you getting your foot in a hole was like way higher.
Yeah.
That was just ridiculous. So Potsy just brought back the Gumption series. Is he coming for you again?
I don't know. We're not at the top anymore. We're not at the top. You know,
you guys are fighting for second.
Yeah, I'm like, that is not exciting. Like, at the time, he was the big dog. You know, like back-to-back national champ. I'm like, yeah, it'll be exciting to take him down. But at the moment, like, there's nothing to fight for. You only fight for first place. That's what powerlifting is.
So who's going to win the 83s then next year? Tanis or yourself or Kana or Potsy? Who's going to win?
Man, that is up in the air, but everyone looks so strong. This is the strongest the 83s have been in a hot minute. Do you remember anything like this in the PA days or the APU days?
No, because the overall talent is so much higher now in every weight class. I remember periods of time where the 83s was never that deep because Amir Fazeli was at the top.
Yeah.
And he was kind of just cruising through and beating everyone. But the 93s had some really solid depth with like Will Phillips and a bunch of others. And then the 105s at another point in time had some really solid depth. But it feels like now we just have so much depth across the board,
Man.
particularly in the middleweight classes, like and in the female class as well, even in like all the female classes.
Yeah, Lucipi is the best lifter in Australia.
Crazy.
And what, she only started like 2 years ago?
It's unreal.
That's nuts.
I want everyone in that family, like everyone, like all the distant cousins, every distant relative, every single person in the Josh and
pool.
Lucy's family to start lifting.
Yeah.
Because like they'll be the whole Australian team in like 5 years.
Bro.
Every single weight class.
Is this the Tonga team or the Australian team? Man, like,
but no, like it's really crazy. Like the 105s could be any one of like 6 guys could win.
yeah, they're all so close.
The 93s has like 4 or 5 really hot contenders. 83s, same thing. 74s, same thing. Like it's 66, same thing. With the Yuki and Andrew.
And
like,
Chris, yep.
And Chris now, yeah. So it's like we go into nationals most years and over half the weight classes is like, oh, it's this person's class.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's other classes who are like, oh, it's a battle between two. Pretty much every weight class next year at Nationals is going to be like, it could be one of 3, one of 5, one of 6. It's awesome. Very exciting.
That's what makes it exciting, right? Like, that's what powerlifting's about. It's like, okay, one bloke can dominate the weight class, but it's like, it's nothing exciting. You know what's going to happen.
Do you think that would change then the way that you view winning and losing if the talent pool is so deep? Would you consider like being on the podium a win at that point? Still no?
No.
If there was like 10 dudes who could win and you got a 3rd spot or a 2nd spot, you can still consider that a loss.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
I think you ask anyone at the top on the podium.
Not me, because I'm not at the top. I'm fighting for like 11th.
I think if you ask anyone who came 2nd place, they'd say definitely like that's a loss.
Interesting. Because I coached Caitlin and Tia.
Yeah.
And her last deadlift, she had a choice whether she wanted to pull for 2nd or for 1st, and there was only a 3 kilo difference. She chose 2nd, and she was stoked with that.
Oh,
so like I guess it's individual dependence, but I wonder if you would speak to all the 83s and ask them that. I know Kana would definitely say that.
Say what? Like if he came 2nd, that's a loss.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I don't really know Nathan Tannis that well. He's very quiet.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he would say the same.
He's got that dog.
He's the guy to beat. He's the guy to beat. That 800 that he did was so impressive.
It's so nuts.
So impressive.
I think it's the strongest the 83s have been in a hot minute. I mean, before this period, the strongest person was Nathan Tannis.
Yes.
772.
772 but he was in the 93.
No, he was still an 83 junior.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm an 83. I did my research.
All right. I'll trust you.
I think that was in 2018.
Okay.
But
because then the total that Kana hit at Nationals was the biggest 83 total ever in Australian history. The 776.
Yep.
It was. And then Tannis just beat it.
Yep.
By fucking heaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Man.
Exciting times.
74 is exciting. I'm really keen on seeing Kayan at SBD Cup.
I'm super, super excited to see Kayan.
That guy came out of nowhere. Well, not nowhere. I mean, he was powerlifting, but he got strong out of nowhere. Like, his total skyrocketed in the same weight class, in the 74s. I remember seeing him at Commonwealths, I think late 2022. He had something like a 600 total. Yeah. Like maybe mid 6s.
Yeah, I think he was in the 650-ish range.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? And then, boom, fast forward, Nationals, bloke hits, what was it, 713. 713. I was like, holy.
Yeah,
that's some progress.
He actually also only went 6 for 9 in that meet as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you follow him?
No.
He doesn't post much of his training, but he's been looking really strong. I think he's a legitimate chance of taking the total record.
I reckon that guy's the future.
And then we'll see if Steven can come back and get it back.
Oh. Which
will be very exciting. I love Steven with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
That's a hard man to beat.
It's a different dog.
That's a hard guy to beat.
Yeah.
But yeah, fuck, man. It's going to be exciting. I'm very keen for the next 12 months because, Australian powerlifting is blowing up. And
it's a new era.
The landscape's changing. Yeah. And people are flocking to the Fed and we'll hopefully get a lot of the Victorian gyms to come back. And then, it's going to boom. We've got 4 lifters at the Cup from USAPL.
Who do we have? So we've got Hung, we've got Takua.
Hung, Emilio, Takua, and Kate.
Kate Nax?
Yeah.
So good.
So good.
All the talent is coming back to
hopefully
one federation.
Hopefully that's kind of the start of everyone trickling back.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I don't have anything else to talk about. So we can just cut the pod there. Thank you, Chris. Thanks everyone for listening. And I'll talk to you guys next week.
Catch you later.